Happy New Year! Well, actually, it's almost halfway through the month, but boy, is it good to be back. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Adams Eats Kitchen, and it's the first video of 2018. Now, I just want to say a quick thank you for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. It happened a couple of days after Christmas. You know, it's just amazing. You guys are so awesome. You give me so much support and love, so thank you very much. Gonna aim for about 10,000 this year. I know it's a big step, but you know, we'll see. I've also got some big ideas for the channel this year. It's all kind of money depending really, but I'd like to get some new lenses if I can. But if you're into photography and filmmaking, you'll understand how expensive lenses can be. So, you know, just kind of see on that. But I've already started on some improvements. For any computer geeks out there, I've invested in a new graphics card for my computer because the old one was slow and editing and rendering videos just was painfully slow. So I'm going to install that over the next couple of days. So that should make editing more productive. I'm also looking at a motorised camera dolly. It's just like a little kind of motorised car. The camera sits on the top. And you know, you can just sort of move the camera as it's filming, you know, it just gives you a nice little slow motion shot, so it's quite cool. I'm also watching a lot of Peter McKinnon videos just to help me with my editing and, you know, trying to up my game a little bit. And if you don't know who Peter McKinnon is, he's a fantastic YouTuber. He grew a lot last year. Brilliant filmmaker, brilliant photographer. He's got a bunch load of tips on there. So if you're into that kind of stuff, go and have a look. I'll put a link down below. But in a nutshell, I just want to push myself a bit more this year. Be a bit more creative, you know, add some new techniques to the editing. Another thing I want to do is sort out the lighting because, you know, all the lights around here and that, it was a temporary setup, but it's kind of turned into permanent and it's not ideal. So I want to sort that out as well. So yeah, Happy New Year guys, it's great to be back and I can't wait to see what this year brings. But anyway, that's enough of that, let's get on with the recipe. Now, I'm sure you're all feeling the strain of all the excess at Christmas, all that food and booze and everything like that. Now, you guys know that this isn't a health food channel per se, but there are times when I do make extra healthy dishes. I mean, all my food is nutritious and good for you, but what I'm making today is just going to be a lot less calorific, lighter, much more refreshing and good for you. And basically what I'm going to make is a nice healthy chicken noodle soup. And it's just going to make you feel a bit healthier and, you know, not feel so guilty about all that excess. So without further ado, let's crack on with the recipe. Now, if you look down below in the description, you can get a list of those ingredients. And as always, if you press that pause button now, you can get a list of them there as well. And before we do anything else, the first thing we need to do is to sort out our leftover chicken. Right, okay, so what I've got here then is a small leftover roast chicken. As you can see, I didn't eat it all, but the main thing we want from this is the carcass. But any meat you've got left on there, we need to strip that off because we want to put that in at the end. Now, obviously, it's dependent on how much meat you've got left on your carcass as to how much is going to end up in your finished soup. So literally all I'm going to do is just to take all of this meat off. I don't really want the skin because there's lots of fat in that and we're going to try and be a bit healthy with this. Just pick it all off, rip it into shreds. And just work your way around the whole carcass until you've removed all the chicken. Okay, so as you can see, I've removed all the meat from the carcass. We've ended up with quite a bit there, that's plenty. And then what we're left with is the main carcass itself, and then bits of sort of thigh bone and leg bone and all sorts of bits and pieces. And that's going to be the base for our soup. So what I'm going to do is take the carcass and all the bones and pop it into a pot. And once you've done that, we need to chop up some veg. Right, so I've got my holy trinity of veg here, carrot, onion and celery. It's a match made in heaven and it's going to work amazing in this soup. So first thing I'm going to do is to take our carrots, a couple of medium-sized ones, and then just chop them roughly into chunks. You know, you can keep the root on if you want because it's all going to get sieved at the end. Don't bother peeling them either. Okay, and then just add that to the pot with the chicken. Same with the celery. Again, chop it into rough chunks, get that in. And then surprise, surprise, the same with the onion. Then we're just going to cut that into chunks as well. Don't worry too much about the skin because, like I said to you before, we are going to strain it. And actually the skin does add a bit of colour as well. Again, chop that up, get all of that in. Next I've got some garlic, 3 nice fat cloves. Just take your knife, squash them, and bung those in as well. And once you've added the veg, the next thing we need to do is add some spice. Okay, so to this pot then, I'm going to add some peppercorns, between 8 and 10, get those in. A couple of bay leaves, just twist them up in your hands, Release those oils. And then just 1 star anise. And that'll give the soup a very light aniseed Asian flavour, and it'll work great with the chicken. Next thing I'm going to add is some water. You want it so it just comes above the chicken carcass. I would say that's enough. That's about 1.5 litres. You know, you can just see the top of the carcass poking out there, that's fine. Now I need to get this onto the heat and bring it to a boil. Right, okay, so I've brought the soup to a boil and I've turned it down to a gentle simmer. And all this foam that you see on the top, right, that's all the impurities from the chicken. And what you want to do is just skim this off with a spoon. Just work your way around the edge. And the reason we're doing this is because if we leave it in, it's just going to make your finished soup really cloudy and it's not going to look right. And what you want to do is to leave that to simmer for about 2 hours, nice and gently. Come back to it every 20 minutes, half an hour, and just skim off more of that scum. And after a couple of hours, you'll end up with a nice chickeny broth. It should be a light golden hue, and it'll make the most fantastic base for our soup. So I'll catch you guys in a couple of hours, and then we'll move on to the next step. Right, okay, so it's been simmering away for about 2 hours now. As you can see, it's reduced a bit. You know, it used to be up here, it's reduced by about 1/4. That's a good thing because that's going to intensify the flavour and make it super delicious. Now I've turned off the heat, and what I've got here is a large bowl with a colander inside it, and then I've lined that with a clean tea towel because we're going to strain it. Now you can use a fine sieve, muslin cloth, it just depends on what you've got to hand. So all I'm going to do is just take this over to the colander and strain it. Right, so as you can see, I've strained the stock, I've returned it to the pan. That just removes all the little bits and pieces and stuff you don't really want in your soup. And I'm going to get it back onto a low heat. And now what I'm going to do is add the same vegetables that we put in earlier. So I've got some fresh carrot, onion and celery chopped up. And this will just add some nice crunch and some nice freshness to the soup. So I'm going to get some of that in. And I'm just going to simmer those for about 10 minutes. Be careful not to reduce the soup anymore, because otherwise you'll end up with nothing left. But you still want to retain a bit of crunch and a bit of texture to those vegetables. So I'm going to give these about 10 minutes and then I'll show you the next bit. Right, okay, so after about 10 minutes, I'm now going to add a drained can of sweet corn. This is just a small can, it's 165 grams. So we'll get that in, and that's going to add a really nice sweetness to the finished soup. I'm also going to add in some chicken. I don't think I'm going to add all of it because there's quite a lot here. So I'm going to simmer that for about another 3 or 4 minutes, not too long because that chicken is already cooked, it just needs to warm through. Then at the last minute we'll add the noodles and then we'll season it and then it's ready to go. So now it's been about 3 or 4 minutes, we can now add the noodles. Now I'm using rice noodles, you can use whatever noodles you like, you could even use pasta. So I'm just going to squash those in and they'll take seconds to cook. 30 seconds and they'll be done and they're going to soak up all that chickeny goodness. Right, so after about 30 seconds, the noodles are cooked. And I'm just going to check for seasoning. Oh, it's so light and delicious. It does need salt though, so I'm going to get some salt in there. And that's it. I've turned off the heat and now we can serve some up and give it a taste. Right, okay, so let's serve some up. Now for a soup like this, you want a nice deep bowl. Make sure we get some of those noodles in there. And of course, some of that broth. And then I'm going to top it with just a few chili flakes, just for a bit of heat, and of course a token spattering of greenage. And there we have it, that is my chicken noodle soup. Nice and fresh, simple, tasty. Let's dig in. Right, here it is then, chicken noodle soup. Let's tuck in, give it a go. It's just so light, full of that chicken flavour, and it's got one of those tastes where you just know it's doing you good. You know, after all that excess and party food and dense meats and rich food, when you're eating this, you just know it's doing you good. That sweet corn adds a really nice sweetness as well. And then just in the background, you've got that really nice sort of aniseed flavour, which comes from the star anise. And like I said before, star anise and chicken, it's a marriage made in heaven. Really fresh, light, really simple to make. That's my chicken noodle soup. Well, anyway guys, that about wraps up today's video. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Now if you like what you see, then please stick a like down below. And if you want to show me some love and support, then please subscribe. And as always, if you stick around at the end, there'll be some links to some of the videos. And if you want to subscribe, there'll be a button for that as well. And I'll see you beautiful people next time for more tasty fun and frolics. And a happy new year, you beautiful lot. Mwah.